This documentary is an account by Kerry and Rogue, two female maskers who have been practicing their art for over 30 years. It is not meant to be comprehensive. It's a joyful celebration of a subculture that is often misunderstood. And it is a letter to the future, to those who would follow. In the very beginning, the original Greek tragedies were staged using masks for amplification, and so the audience could identify each character. Gods and heroes, men and women, each was stylized with stiff but lifelike masks. The Carnival of Venice began in 1162. Traditionally, people were allowed to wear them between the festival of Santo Stefano on December 26th until the end of the carnival season at midnight of Shrove Tuesday. As masks were also allowed on Ascension, and from October 5th to Christmas, people could spend a large portion of the year in disguise. The carnival peaked in the 18th century before it was abolished in 1797. Revived again in the 20th century, the Carnival of Venice features many male and female maskers, where revelers come to party and play. Belgian painter James Ensor, who was an important influence on Expressionism and Surrealism, frequently used masked figures in his works, including attributes of the studio, the intrigue, and self-portrait with masks. These works are all from the end of the 19th century, but Ensor lived until 1949. In the earliest known example of female masking in a movie, Star of Midnight revealed Roger Claassen, as played by Ralph Morgan, as a female masked murderer. The animated short Jitterbug Follies had an old lady playing Mother Goose, removing her mask, wig, and costume to reveal an attractive, albeit rotoscoped, young woman. The very first issue of Captain America #1, drawn by comics legend Jack Kirby, included a scene of an old woman who turns out to be a young female agent wearing a mask. The multi-part Republic movie serial The Black Widow features Sombra, the lead villain, who wore a number of female masks. Someone else even is disguised as her at one point, as a ruse to fool our heroes. Many people assume that masking as a fetish only started in recent decades, but in the late 1940s, John Wiley's magazine Bizarre included photos of people wearing doll masks. Your grandparents were doing this. In these photos, we can see stylized masks of actress Joan Crawford being used. Presumably, these were homemade or knockoffs and not approved as official Crawford merchandise. Although, ironically, there was a Joan Crawford mask used as a disguise in the low-budget thriller Strait Jacket. In a Casper the Friendly Ghost cartoon, Taboo or Not Taboo, a girl takes off her mask to reveal she is a ghost too. Masks were becoming such a part of the popular culture that in The Beckoning Lady, a 1955 novel by Marjorie Allingham, there was a discussion about female masks made of an ultra-porous synthetic rubber, and brief appearances by those masks later on. And in Spite of Thunder, a 1960 novel by John Dickson Carr, a criminal wears a mask of tinted rubber with real fair hair, depicting a by-then dead woman as she was when she was young and beautiful. The Jetsons, a prime-time animated series aimed at adults and children, had an episode where the mother, Jane, wore a morning mask disguise to appear made up for a video call. Her friend loses her mask in an unfortunate sneezing accident. In the future, at least according to this series, everyone wears masks. The thriller, The List of Adrian Messenger, has an evil Kirk Douglas wearing a number of disguises, but among its celebrity cameos also reveals Burt Lancaster using a realistic mask of an old lady. Ever since Captain America, masks often featured in comic books, including Action Comics number 322, where Supergirl is tricked into reanimating 3 villainesses who take off their face masks. The TV series that was the holy grail for maskers, Mission: Impossible, began in 1966 and featured realistic female masks in the episodes The Bunker, Butterfly, Encounter, Committed, Stone Pillow, Speed, Leona, The Fountain, and The Fighter. Usually these masks were worn by either Linda Day George or Leslie Ann Warren. For many of us watching, the idea of super realistic masks was inspired by this series, which was rerun for decades, shown worldwide, and even inspired the current movie series with Tom Cruise, which continues the masking techniques. The movie Games featured Vladislav Benda's Golden Girl masks. Fetish magazines of the 1970s sometimes featured female masking, like this issue of Atomage showing examples of dolls' masks. In the magazine White Patent, they ran a special masks feature. The Captive Kittens Fetish magazine in April 1978 featured the first appearance of the famous bureau sequence, with a centurion mask, the Halloween trick that was a treat. Women in Command featured a number of masked women. Don Post Studios released Bride of Frankenstein, a full-head latex mask with punched hair and a hidden zipper in the back. It was sold in costume stores across the country. A few years later, Centurions, aka Spartacus, had female doll masks go on sale and advertised in their various magazines. The 30-minute toy ad, disguised as a TV show, G.I. Joe, often had the Baroness wearing and removing realistic female disguises to fool the Joes. Caesar, never one to worry about intellectual property rights, released a Madonna latex mask to cash in on the singer's worldwide popularity. The 1985 feature film, Cocoon, directed by Ron Howard, featured aliens made of energy that wore human disguises to blend in on our planet. In this scene, the alien does not know it's being watched as it removes its incredibly realistic-looking disguise. In issue 24 of the film magazine Cinefex, they discuss the making of the prop bodysuits and feature several behind-the-scene photos of the human costumes, which were created by Greg Canham. The husks, as they were called, were made from actual life casts of the actors' entire bodies and were made from a urethane material known as Skinflex. For all the money and effort that went into making the husks, they were only featured in 3 short scenes in the final movie. Crystal, the masked doll, made her public debut, usually in the San Francisco Bay Area. She even was interviewed on a low-budget public access show. Her mask was designed by famed Hollywood makeup artist John Chambers. Crystal even made the cover of Fad magazine in the early 90s, which did a feature on her. Kerry would later sell a licensed version of the Crystal mask. In a tie-in with Batman Returns, a Catwoman latex mask with face went on sale. Some are still seen these days. The Revolting Cocks are a band comprised of American and Belgian performers, and their song, Do Ya Think I'm Sexy, came out in the year 1993. The song is a cover of a song from Rod Stewart, and a video for their song also came out that year. In the video, an actress unzips her bodysuit and removes a full, highly detailed, female face mask. These early examples ignited the imagination of masking fans, and gave a glimpse into what was possible. To cash in on Married with Children, a Peg Bundy mask, complete with red hair, was released in costume shops. In 1996, two independent mask makers made their debut on the internet. Kerry with Tiresias Productions, and the original classic Kerry latex mask, and Versatile Fashions began selling the Facade doll masks by Mark and Jennifer Antone. Facade lasted a couple of years, and even came to one of the MaskCon conventions. Kerry, of course, is still selling masks nearly 30 years later. That same year, the mask mailing list was launched by Kerry as a monthly email newsletter. It would run for 165 issues until 2010. And Marty launched the Female Mask homepage, originally hosted on AOL before Marty and Kerry bought their own domain in 1998. Diane Richards in Scotland let necessity be the mother of invention, and created the first latex mask/torso herself. She frequently posted for a year, and then mysteriously vanished, never to be heard from again. Between 1996 and 2003, Rogue shared her female masks and dozens of costumes on a webpage called Rogue's Refuge. The webpage was designed as a house that you could explore and find familiar characters inhabiting. Most of the masks and costumes displayed were handmade by Rogue, and gave her the incentive to continue refining her skills. Around this time, Nikki got into the female masking business with her custom masks featuring lining on the inside. Expanding her line, Kerry introduced the Emerald Mask by Paul Barrett Brown, the Michelle, and the Roberta latex masks. Kerry then introduced the Sheila mask and torso combos, based on fiberglass molds she had commissioned for a bodysuit. With the internet beginning to spread in popularity, 1998 would be a banner year for masking. MaskCon, the very first known worldwide gathering of female mask enthusiasts, was held over Halloween weekend in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yuki Makise from Japan even flew all the way over just to attend the convention. Kerry and Marty would reciprocate by visiting Japan later that year. Also that year, Marty, in partnership with British maker Paul Barrett Brown, began to distribute his masks in the United States. Meanwhile, in Austria, Rhea made her own female masks, dubbing them Creative Fun. Kerry and Rogue would wear their costumes and female masks at that year's San Diego Comic-Con, back in the era before it was a crazy media free-for-all. After Comic-Con, Kerry and Rogue reconvened in Seattle and shot Made in China, a short featuring all their masked costume characters, sometimes all in the same shot. The next year included the release of the infamous Latex Lady blow-up doll. Bodysuit fans quickly realized this sex doll was the perfect size to convert into a wearable suit, and they soon became hard to find. Kerry began selling the Alice mask, also designed by Paul Barrett Brown. Its smaller size often appealed to genetic females wanting to mask. Meanwhile, in France, Geraldine began making her own masks. The following year, in 1999, A second MaskCon convention was held in the San Francisco Bay Area. A British production company even hired a local camera crew to follow everyone around for a proposed documentary on UK television. We're not sure the footage was ever used. New female mask manufacturers included Nekanox with her Annabeth latex mask, followed by the Bianca. In 2000, Kerry and Rogue were approached by author Catherine Gates to participate in a segment of her new book entitled Deviant Desires. The book focused on unusual fetishes, not to denigrate, but to enlighten those open-minded enough to learn more. Kerry and Rogue are both featured in the interior article regarding female masking, and Rogue can be seen, in full color, on the cover of the book. Diesel Jeans started an ad campaign with models wearing female masks. Mainstream media was beginning to take notice of masking as art. Veteran mask company Dawn Post released the She Mask. Long a monster-themed company, now they were getting in the female masking business. eBay retailers began appearing on the scene with Vandalay Industries, an in-joke from Seinfeld, selling their so-called and unlicensed Britney and Barbie masks. In Japan, Mariko started showing off her homemade latex masks. She would sculpt them herself and do all the work, eventually graduating to full-head silicone masks. And Notori began marketing his so-called photogenic masks that he sculpted. These highly detailed masks, with very realistic see-through eyes, were silicone, but extremely stiff doll masks. Makupartist from the Czech Republic began selling their line of foam rubber masks as a low-cost alternative to other brands. Shockwave Flash Animation, the wonder of the internet 2 decades ago, brought us DC Comics Gotham Girls that featured a scene of Batgirl unmasking as a man. In print, the cover of National Geographic in November 2002 featured a silicone life mask of a model on the cover. Masking was also the theme in this ad campaign for the BBC in Britain. The final MaskCon convention was held over Halloween weekend in chilly Denver, Colorado. The event included trips out to a local nightclub, more shopping, and socializing with other female maskers. Kerry expanded her line of latex masks with the Lisa and Lynn masks, which she had commissioned various Seattle-based sculptors to create. A famous Toyota ad, later exported to other countries, featured a female mask removal scene. Grayland Films got into the female mask business with a new line that started with the Honka, Sheena, and Ollie masks. These inexpensive foam masks were great starter masks for many people. In 2005, flushed from their initial success, Grayland expanded their line with the popular Lynn, Emily, Liv, Kim, and Naomi masks. British performance artist Pandemonia debuted her inflatable doll character, originally called Carrie Wan Z, that became such an icon on the British art scene she made an appearance in the Ab Fab movie. In the Netherlands, the performance troupe Mr. Image had a cabaret act that featured an icon performer in a very realistic Marilyn Monroe mask. They used to post photos all the time on their website, but subsequently scrubbed all references to it a few years later, probably after hearing from lawyers from Marilyn's estate. The Arties put on an art exhibit in Europe called Go West, which featured all 3 of the members in matching Sheila masks they had commissioned, especially for the project. Their images were on the posters, and they appeared in person as well. Kim Netto appeared in the Dutch documentary Bizarre on Bizander, which showed how they transformed into a doll. Kim Netto made another appearance on Dutch TV, this time on the chat show Koppensnellers, showing off her doll persona. And a development that would quickly revolutionize the masking and makeup effects industry, Smooth On introduced their Dragon Skin silicone products. The Museum of Sex in New York City opens an exhibit featuring a section on female masking. Kerry and Jovina attended the opening along with curator Catherine Gates. Kerry commissioned another local artist to sculpt and create the plaster molds of the Joan mask. And Kerry uploaded her very first video to YouTube on March 24, 2007, a promotion for the Emerald Mask, the first in a series of videos. Around 2007, Femskin, the brainchild of a cabinet manufacturer, introduced the first silicone bodysuit. They would continue to refine and release new generations of suits, and the production would eventually be taken over by the creator's son. Silicone had really arrived on the scene. With Kerry, Rogue, and Marty out of the MaskCon convention business, the mantle was taken up by the Rubber Doll World Rendezvous held in Minnesota, which attracted dozens of maskers for a weekend hotel meetup. Meanwhile, in the USA, Pushing Daisies had an unmasking sequence as part of a dream. In 2008, the first commercially available female silicone mask was released by the company CFX, also known as Composite Effects. It was called Doll Face and resembled a porcelain doll. The mask was described as a female fit, which meant it was designed for smaller head sizes. CFX would continue to expand its female range with the Sandra mask, and the following year CFX introduced the Denise, a black silicone mask. In 2011, legendary mask maker Rusty Slusser and his SPFX company attempted to create a female silicone mask. Several scuffs were shown, but the product did not eventually make it to market. At the time, the company claimed it was impossible to make it look good. Animated and drawn art depicting female masks and masking have been around for decades. However, recent image-sharing sites such as Pixiv, DeviantArt, and Reddit made it possible for individual masking artists to reach a wider community. The art itself came in many forms, from line-drawn to digital art, sometimes in black and white and sometimes in color. More recently, photorealistic 3D art depicting masking has become quite popular. Kerry got into the silicone mask business with the introduction of the Susan mask, the first with attached breasts. Designed by LA makeup artist Brian Sipe, it cost $10,000 to develop, but quickly became quite profitable. The first latex female hands appear from Ogawa Studios. The cover of Italian Vogue in September 2012 featured a large collection of female masks as part of an article.
Silicone Studios released a female latex mask with hair, and has since released several variations of this mask.
Kerry followed up the successful Susan silicone mask with the Jessica with a full torso. Real Flesh in Canada started selling silicone masks including the Woman, the Playmate, and the Doll. Kerry and Rogue collaborate on a video featuring masked characters called A Day in the Life. The UK's Channel 4 produced Secrets of the Living Dolls that included profiles of Leslie Marshall and Robert Sherry. For years, this would be referenced and rediscovered by researchers who wanted to do articles about maskers. In 2017, Rogue decided to recreate a scene called The Audition that was originally created as a tech demo for the game Heavy Rain. Rogue memorized the entire monologue and delivered it again and again alone to a camera until it was perfect. Seeing the potential, Rogue asked Kerry if she'd consider creating a podcast with her about female masking using voice-altering software. They recorded a demo in October of 2017 and decided it was good enough to release on YouTube. So far, 14 complete episodes have followed, featuring media recreations, interviews with other female mask enthusiasts, reviews of masks, and costuming tips.
From China, Roy Nur offered a full female silicone suit, including the mask.
Competition from them and other Chinese retailers would eventually spell the end of FemSkin and Kerry's silicone mask business. Italian special effects house Crea FX would begin offering a whole range of female silicone masks that would quickly become the favorite of maskers worldwide. Though not cheap and not made to be particularly durable, in the right hands they could be incredibly realistic. An Italian variation on the Masked Singer, The Star in the Star, featured famous Italian performers wearing custom realistic silicone masks of famous international singers, and judges had to guess who was under the disguise. They would then dramatically unmask in front of the live studio audience. The future looks bright for enthusiasts of female masking. 3D printers are creating more detailed and exact molds, allowing for a wider variety of sizing options. Multiple manufacturers are now selling their masks all around the world and innovating with new materials along the way. As the interest in female masking grows, there's likely to be even more options and innovations in the future.